Hello everyone, myself Khushi Jaiswal from CSPIT CE. My ID is 20CE036. Today I am going to present on the topic MPU communication. So firstly, we will understand what is MPU. So MPU stands for microprocessor unit. It is an electronic device that implements the core element of a computer system on a single integrated circuit. Then this MPU is a central unit of computer system which performs many arithmetic and logical operations. Now, what are the components of microprocessor? So, microprocessor consists of three components. The first one is ALU. ALU is arithmetic and logical unit. Second is register array, and third is the control unit. Now, what are the functions of MPU? So, MPU have four functions that are it transfer data between memory and input-output devices. It fetch the data and instructions in the memory. It performs arithmetic and logical operations. It performs communication among the input and output devices. So now what is MPU communication? Before understanding about the MPU communication, we will discuss the basic systems of microprocessor. So it is divided into two parts. The first is system hardware and second is system software. So in system hardware, MPU communicates with the memory and external devices which are called input and output devices. MPU communicates with the help of a system bus, and this system bus consists of three buses that are address bus, data bus and control bus. Now, what is system software? So, a system software is a group of programs which monitors the function of entire system. So now we will look into the details of the buses. The first is address bus. So this address bus carries an address. To fetch data or to go at any location, the MPU firstly generates an address and then it goes from address bus. The length of the address bus is 16-bit and total number of slots in the memory is 2 raised to 16. Address bus is unidirectional. It is because the data flow in one direction from microprocessor to memory or from microprocessor to input or output devices. Now the second is data bus. So as the name might suggest, data. So that means it carries the data between the registers. Its length depends upon the length of the data that we are storing, and this data bus is bidirectional. Now the third one is control bus. So control bus carries control signals from the processor to other components. The control bus has a control over how the processor operates, and it decides when the instructions or a data or a address how to interpret it with. Now it will also carry the clock pulses. It is unidirectional. So control bus is unidirectional. So this is the architecture of MPU communication, how the MPU communicates. So there are three buses. These are the address bus, control bus and data bus. And this is the memory, this is MPU, and these are the input and output devices. So the data which uh, MPU sends goes through this data bus, and then these are the interfaces through which the data has to pass before going to input and output devices. So this MPU communicates with the outside world with the help of external devices, that is input and output devices. Then this MPU accepts the binary data from the input devices and sends that data to output devices. For performing this task, MPU first need to identify the input and output devices. So to identify the input and output devices, there are two methods. The first method is input and output devices with 8-bit address, and second is input output devices with 16. So the first is input-output devices with 8-bit address. So in this type of input-output device, MPU uses 8 address line to identify the input and output devices. The 8 address line have 2 raised to 8 combinations for a total of 256 addresses, and this MPU can identify 256 input as well as output devices with addresses ranging from 00H to FFH, that is in hexadecimal. Now, the control lines that are input-output read and input-output write can be used to distinguish between input and output devices. So, for input devices, MPU uses the input-output read control signals, while for the output devices, it uses input-output write control signals. So, these input-output devices cannot be directly connected to the data bus, or the connection must be made through the tri-state interfacing devices, which enables and connect the bus when MPU chooses to do so. So the second is input-output devices with 16-bit address. So in this type of input-output devices, MPU uses 16 address lines to identify the input and output devices. The MPU uses same control signals like it was using in 8-bit address. So in that input-output read control signals was for input devices, and input output write control signals was for output device. So here memory read and memory write and all that instructions. Now, what are the steps to communicate with 8-bit or a 16-bit input-output device? So there are three steps. So the first step is the MPU places an 8-bit address or a 16-bit address on the address bus, which is decoded by external decode logic. The second step is MPU sends a control signal, that is input-output write or input-output read, and enables the input devices, that is input-output read for input devices and input-output write for output devices. Now the third one is data are transferred using data bus. So data will be transferred using that data bus. So that's it. Thank you.